Hi, I'm Lexi with HyprMX here at Pocket Gamers Connect London 2026. Joining me is Zdravka from Yodo1. Hi, Zdravka.
Hi, Lexi. Nice to meet you.
Thank you so much for joining us again. I think your third year doing this with us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So my first question for you. So when teams come to Yodo1 looking to grow, are there any assumptions about monetization you usually have to debunk or push back on?
Yeah, so I would say that one of the things which we often face and the assumption which a lot of developers have, is that the first and most important thing to do is find funding, access to VCs, UA funding, or funding for development, which is, of course, great to work on. But the thing is that we need to set the foundations first. So we need to make sure that LTV is higher than the cost to acquire players. And that's why we recommend to studios we work with to work on that balance and to test everything on the small scales before they start expanding and look for funding and growing the title. Because, finding the right partner to fund and scale the title, it doesn't create profitability. It only accelerates the situation which you have. So it's better to be profitable before we enter into the scaling phase. And setting up the right foundations with the monetization actually ensures that you have the highest possible LTV before you start spending money.
So at what stage do teams usually start thinking about monetization, and when should they?
So I would say a lot of teams will dedicate most of their time, like probably 90% of their time, focusing on the product design, improvement, and starting to think about user acquisition, whether it's going to be paid, organic, or whether I should bring some influencers in the game. And monetization sometimes is left like for something we can do later on once everything is up and running. And I would say that it's recommended to start thinking about the monetization from day one and start thinking about the right balance between in-app purchases, ads, web shops, during the time you're building the product itself. Because if you only try to stitch the monetization later, it may feel a little bit foreign to the players, and instead of supporting retention and engagement, it may hurt them. So I would say from the get-go, day one, just start thinking of the ways you will monetize and how you will do that.
Where do ads fit best today when teams are trying to scale up their games?
Yeah, as I mentioned, normally we would see a healthy balance between in-app purchases and ads, but I would say that ads today fit. It probably may sound cliche, but they fit from day one, and they fit any game, any geography. And the assumption that ads make my game feel cheap is actually a misconception, because with ads, you can monetize specific players, which you can never monetize with in-app purchases. So 95% of your players will probably not be payers on a returning basis. And when you plan for the ads from the beginning, you can always remove, reduce, or focus on ads for a specific segment in your player audience, while you reduce the ad frequency or remove them entirely for the other segments. So it's nice, again, to have the right balance there.
So what's a monetization decision teams make too late that ends up holding back their games?
Monetization, decision they make late, I would say oftentimes what we see is that player segmentation is something which some teams will focus on later on, or not focus from the start and the get-go of the game. And it's not good, because first you under-monetize and miss opportunities to monetize well the paying users and the so-called whales. Then for players who are non-spenders, there are some opportunities to create ad-driven engagement and to help them actually progress in the title. And then for casual players, for example, if this is not done and you target any user the same way, like every user the same way, they may feel that monetization comes before they're committed to the title. So that's why we recommend to have the split between different users, and teams can start very simple, but at least identify payers from non-payers, and then players who are rich in time or rich in skills, and differentiate between those, and then start to optimize them in different ways. Because if you don't have the segmentation from the start, then it's very difficult to target players like live ops cannot target the players with the right offers, right timing, or ads are just inappropriate and they don't support retention and engagement. So those are some of the consequences which we can see later on, and it's difficult to fix them afterwards if you don't put the right foundations.
Gotcha. So when monetization is supporting growth, what's usually true about the game?
So when the game grows and the revenue grows up and to the right on the graph, it means that the game is not a static product, but it's a live platform. And all this is driven by rigorous live ops engine at the back end. And with live ops, what happens is you drive retention, engagement, and session times. We've seen like session time increase by probably 80% during live events in our games. And at the same time, higher engagement means more ads watched, and normally the limited offers and events actually make players want to spend and not miss the offer, or they have a specific goal to achieve during the time limited event. So it basically drives both engagement and revenue upwards. So I would say that the live ops is kind of the engine which pumps blood into the monetization of a healthy game.
One last question for you. What's one thing teams should stop doing when it comes to monetization?
That's an interesting one. I would say stop looking for magical quick spikes which would triple LTV in the game, because there are tools and techniques which can help us grow, but it's all about rigorous, daily, ongoing efforts to improve and test everything. So don't be biased about the data, the players, and don't rely on something which was working like a year ago. We should always test what players do today, instead of just having an assumption about what they want. So, and my advice will be to overcome this, just test more aggressively with everything which is related, of course, not only to product, but also monetization, like test web shops, test more aggressive event pricing, different ad formats. So basically the data-driven decision. And if you think about it, think about successful players, for example, like Novak Djokovic, who is #1 top chart tennis player, or Lee Faker, who is the esports famous gamer of League of Legends. So what they basically did is, for decades, they were putting effort every day in and day out, to improve every day incrementally, which brought them to the top chart. It was not like relying on their initial, I don't know what they were born with, but it was more like every day I'm going to play and I'm going to be better compared to what I was yesterday. And this is exactly what we do at Yodo1. We want to bring great games to players and at the same time help developers to thrive for the long term. It's a marathon.
Well, I appreciate all of your insights, and thank you so much again for sitting down with us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.